Bonjour, Lily.
May we ask you a few quick questions?
Of course,
really
come on
quickly.
in. Have a
Thank
seat.
you. So you are. Oh, sorry.
No, so you're coming to my office where there's a big empty space now. There used to be a couch here,
Oh,
and it has
really?
been removed, and we're going to put a table here just so you don't have an empty space.
That's exciting. This is a beautiful office, though.
Oh, thank you.
Really stunning.
Thank you, Lily.
So you are the director of Reid Hall.
Exactly.
It's a very big role, and I know you've done a lot of research on the extensive history of Reid Hall.
Right.
Since this is a little bit of a quicker kind of chat, could you tell us something that you found surprising about the history of Reid Hall when you first learned it that you'd like to share?
Of course. I mean, really, basically, there's no history. That's the thing that was so surprising. There was no history of this place, and there are no archives, so to speak, in this particular place for that. So in order for us to be able to construct the history of Reid Hall, we had to really dig deep into newspaper sources, biographies, correspondence, go to archives at other places. And so in the reconstruction of that history, actually, what we discovered that was also surprising is that much of this place was run by women for women. So that's something that was really very, very interesting to discover. And another thing that was really interesting to discover was that Reid Hall went through so many different transformations that it's understandable to some extent that, there are no extant archives. And also there's no extant archives because women's history is often put on the back burner of, the historical record, right? So, I mean, so all those things were really surprising for us. One of the things that we should all know is that Reid Hall, that the place that we now call Reid Hall, went through many transformations, as I mentioned. The first being that it was a porcelain factory. You probably saw the porcelain downstairs that we've collected. That then after that, it was an orthopedic center. Who would know? Then after that, it was a Protestant school for young men. Then it became, it was taken over by Elizabeth Mills Reid, who became the big benefactor for Reid Hall for years and years and years until she died. And she's the one who really created the Girls' Art Club, which was a really wonderful place for young women who were coming from the United States to France to practice their art. So, it began as a residential area for these young women. And when the war came on, all the women left and it was transformed into a military hospital, right? So, okay. And she's the one who funded all of that. So when she transformed it into a military hospital, she also invited the Red Cross to come in and be headquartered here. And when the war finally ended, she decided to transform this place into an American University Women's Club. So that women who were really developing a lot of, interest in academia back in the United States could come and meet with other women from all over the globe, in a sense. So, then another war came on and the place was transformed, and it was again transformed so that it could welcome the what do you call them? The École Normale Supérieure de Jeunes Filles de Sèvres. They were here. They stayed here until 1947, and then it became the study abroad center that it is nowadays, right? And when finally they decided through all sorts of, different kinds of meetings, especially the Reid family met with people back in the United States, finally decided to gift the place to Columbia University in 1964. And the rest is history, right?
Thank you for that overview. I remember you speaking about that a little bit earlier in the semester. Or it was very early in the semester, actually.
Yeah.
It explains why there's such a unique feel here. And I'm glad you guys have kept up the legacy of helping women. I know you guys have a lot of partnerships with women's colleges still.
Yes, absolutely.
And you guys love art. You celebrate the history of Reid Hall, the history of Paris, of France, and I'm glad that you guys are teaching that to students like me. I feel like my perspective has broadened so much by being here. And just one second question. Yeah. So you touched on the fact that Reid Hall was a porcelain factory, and there's some things downstairs that kind of help remember that. But overall, could you tell us about maybe one or more if you want, of the paintings or sculptures that you could find around campus?
So my whole idea is to be able to bring back some of the historical objects into Reid Hall, right? So that's why I've been buying whatever I can find. So now my big hope is to be able to find some of the artwork that many of the women who were residents here were able to make, right? And you can find some still on the market. We only have like 3 left from those days. One is hanging in the library, the one that you probably see.
Yes.
You know, it's like the central piece of the library. And that one was done by someone that we found out was called Blondel Malone, who, like many of the other women at Reid Hall, really showcased that gate that used to mark the end of the property before it was transformed by Elizabeth Mills Reed. So that's a really, I think, a very important find for us. And then the other one is when you walked into Reid Hall, you probably saw these 2 sort of vases that are near the reception area. Those really are very fundamental because they mark Reid Hall's importance to French-American relations, because they were given by the French government to Reid Hall as a gift, thanking them, you know, for all of the work that they did in French-American transatlantic relationships. So those, I mean, those are examples. There are many others that I could mention.
Even just in your office, I feel like there are a lot of beautiful pieces of art.
I've taken everything that used to be historical and put it in here. No, this place used to have these beautiful salons. You know, it was really always an extremely sort of like very elegant kind of place. And unfortunately, we had to transform it into offices. And so everything that used to be a bunch of salons, right, with all of this great furniture, that was often donated to Reid Hall at the time, now is, you know, a bunch of offices. But it's still, I think, one of the things that we've always wanted to do is to maintain the spirit of the place.
Yeah.
And to kind of see it as a third space, you know, where all sorts of different things can happen.
Well, thank you, Brune. That was very inspiring. I feel like I learned even more than I understand Reid Hall so much better, even just from this short conversation.
I really
There's so much to learn.
I appreciate the fact that you've decided to do this for students, because oftentimes students don't even get to see my office.
Right.
You know, like nobody knows I exist.
Oh, you're so integral to the functioning of this entire campus. So, yeah.
Thank you, Lily. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brune.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.